Namaste, aloha, welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam class. My name is Janapati Das, and please accept my respects, everyone. Thank you for joining. Let me take this opportunity to offer my most humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagadguru Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, pure devotee of Krishna and the Bhagavatam, representative of the Bhagavatam, the representative of Sri Krishna, and offer also to Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, also Bhagavatam. Excuse me. We'll chant some, and then we'll get into some of the verses from the first canto. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, welcome again. We're continuing from the first canto, first chapter, entitled by Questions by the Sages. And we had just come into the beginning of this conversation between the sages of Naimisharanya and Shuta Goswami, who was heading the sages as a spiritual master. As you remember, he was installed as the head guru, spiritual master, after his father was killed by Lord Balaram in the Srimad Bhagavatam also. So, we are continuing from text 11. So they're actually asking questions, and I think they're just praising and they're asking questions of Shuta Goswami. Text 11. Burini buri karmani shrotavani dviba gashaha atasha sadotrayai sharam samudirta manishaya brui bradaya bhutanan yetmat yenatma suprashidati. Burini, multifarious. Buri, many. It's interesting. That must be buri, must be many. Karmani, duties. Shrota viyani, to be learned. Vibha gashaha, divisions of subject matter. Ata, therefore. Shado, O sage. Atra, herein, yat, whatever. Saram, essence. Samudirta, by selection. Manishaya, best to your knowledge. Brui, please tell us. Badraya, for the good of. Bhutanam, the living beings. Yena, by which. Atma, the self. Supra siddhati, becomes fully satisfied. Excuse me. There are many varieties of scriptures, and in all of them there are many prescribed duties which can be learned only after many years of study in their various divisions. Therefore, O sage, please select the essence of all these scriptures and explain it for the good of all living beings, that by such instruction their hearts may be fully satisfied. So, what they're asking of Shuta Goswami, because Shuta Goswami is a Paramahamsa. A Paramahamsa is a swan, and a swan does this thing where it sticks its beak into the lotus flower in the mud and goes deep and is able to abstract the nectar or the milk from the lotus plant. And so Paramahamsa is a great swan in the sense that just what they're asking them to do. We have all these scriptures, and not just in the Vedas. The Vedas have so many scriptures in the Vedas and different rules and regulations and whatnot, but there are all kinds of scriptures. And a Paramahamsa is able to take the essence out of bhakti, out of these scriptures, and summarize it very simply, because otherwise you could be spending your whole life studying all these rules and regulations, which is, a good thing to know, but it's not necessary to understand all the rules and regulations and different fires, different kinds of sacrifices and this and that of the scriptures. They're there for particular purposes and for particular people in particular consciousness or degrees of surrender who want to enjoy the material world in a certain way, but they can do these kind of regulations that will help elevate their consciousness. This is not what they're talking about. They're asking, give us the essence and explain it for what is the essence of the scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, and what is for the good of all people. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is the cream of of the Vedic scriptures, because it summarizes the pastimes of Sri Krishna, which is the end all of what you need to know. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Atma, or self, is distinguished from matter and material elements. And Atma is a Sanskrit word that can actually mean a variety of things. It can mean the spiritual, the living entity. It can mean the mind of the living entity. It can be the senses or the body of the living entity. But in this case, it's distinguished from as the living entity. It is spiritual in constitution, and thus it is never satisfied by any amount of material planning. So that is also a dilemma of what we're in the material world, thinking we're the material body, trying to find what is essentially a spiritual issue of like trying to be unified in love, in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in loving service of Bhakti Yoga. Taking that love and trying to externally put it out on other things. So trying to suck up this kind of desire to have this loving relationship with Krishna is what we think it is, but we're like, oh, looking out in the desert of what Srila Prabhupada has referred to as the mirages of the desert, the different pretty looking mirages and purple sands and things that looks like maybe there's some pleasure in there, is really not going to satisfy us, because we're not, by essence, we are Atma. We are spiritual in essence. We are spirit soul. We are eternally a spark of Krishna. And we can only be happy with our loving relationship with Krishna by our source, because our source is not our body. Body is not who we are. And to try to enjoy material, it's like painting the external bird cage, but not feeding the bird within. So that's what's basically being stated here. It will never be, because it is distinguished from matter and material elements, it will never be satisfied by whatever you do in the material world, manipulating it to try to get happiness out of it. All scriptures and spiritual instructions are meant for the satisfaction of this self, or Atma. There are many varieties of approaches which are recommended for different types of living beings in different times and at different places. Yeah. That was always when I was trying to figure that out, like before I met my spiritual master and learned the absolute truth. I couldn't understand why there were so inconsistencies in all the scriptures. It seemed like everything was different. They had different approaches, different ways, until I understood that, there are particular prophets and representatives of Krishna who've come at different times to talk to bring a certain scripture or idea to a particular people in a particular consciousness that might be more in the mode of passion or ignorance. And that's what's being stated here. They're recommended different types of living beings at different times and at different places, right? Time and circumstance. Consequently, the numbers of revealed scriptures are innumerable. There are different methods and prescribed duties recommended in these various scriptures. Taking into consideration the fallen condition of the people in general in this age of Kali, the sages of Naimisharanya suggested that Sri Sutta Goswami relate the essence of all such scriptures, because in this age it is not possible for the fallen souls to understand and undergo all the lessons of all these various scriptures in a varna and ashram system. So that was the way, people had longer lifetimes, greater capacity to remember things. The sacrifices were different in different ages. They had a varnashram system that was set up in a way that would help elevate people. These systems are not really necessary, or even they're corrupted anyways. in this day and age. The Varna and ashram system was considered to be the best institution for lifting the human being to the spiritual platform, but due to Kali Yuga, it is not possible to execute the rules and regulations of these institutions. And there were a lot. There were fire sacrifices and, offering different kinds of, things to the demigods and to the forefathers. And this was all, it was a perfect system. It was a perfect system to basically keep people and to engage people in particular different types of consciousness to a spiritual guide, spiritual goal. This is not, nobody's really interested in. They need very simple. We have a very simple process with Lord Chaitanya. It's the chanting of Krishna's names. It's not difficult and lots of fun. Nor is it possible for the people in general to completely sever relations with their families as a varnashram institution prescribes. Yeah, as you would go, you'd be brahmachari, you go to the householder life, have children, have family, and then you have a retire, your children grow up and have their own families. You would just engage in service, and then you would basically leave. You'd go off and wander with just a robe and a water pot and bag with the staff. You can't do that. I mean, even, you do that, you end up on the streets of Honolulu, with all the other crazy people. So, and this was, expected at the time and circumstance. Nobody really knows what that is now. So, the whole atmosphere is surcharged with opposition. And considering this, one can see that spiritual emancipation for the common man in this age is very difficult. The reason the sages presented the matter to Sri Shuta Goswami is explained in this following verses. Text 12. Shuta Janashi Bhadram Te Bhagavan Shatvatam Pati Devakyam Vasudevasya Jato Yasha Chiklashaya. Sutta, O Sutta Goswami, Janashi, Bhadram Te, all blessings upon you. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Sattvatam, of the pure devotees. Patihi, the protector. Devakyam, in the womb of Devaki. Vasudevasya, by Vasudev. Jata, born of, Yasha, for the purpose of. Chitra Shaya, executing. Translation. All blessings upon you, O Sutta Goswami, for you know for what purpose the personality of Godhead appeared in the womb of Devaki as the son of Vasudeva. Purport. Bhagavan means the Almighty God, who is the controller of all opulences, power, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Yeah, even in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a chapter of the opulences of the absolute, right? And so power, fame, beauty, knowledge, renunciation. So 5 different he is the protector of his pure devotees. Although God is equally disposed to everyone, he is especially inclined to his devotees. Sat means the absolute truth. And persons who are servitors of the absolute truth are called sattvatas. Oh, interesting. And the personality of God who protects such pure devotees is known as the protector of the sattvatas. Bhadram te, or blessings upon you. I like that. Bhadram te indicates the sage's anxiety to know the absolute truth from the speaker. This reminds me of something that my spiritual master was saying the night before, the idea of surrender. And here, this perfectly explains what he was saying. The sage's anxiety to know about the absolute truth from the speaker. So the desire, it reminds me of that story of where I think it was Rupa Goswami or Haridas Thakur or one of the two about that. I think I've told the story recently where the mystic yogi was trying to impress people with his powers, and he kept walking by Haridas Thakur, and Haridas Thakur was chanting and chanting, and then he was like getting frustrated, and he finally threw himself on the ground and paid his obeisances and said, "Please, I will go commit suicide if you don't tell me what it is that you have that keeps you from so engaged, and what is the absolute truth." And he says, he dragged the mystic yogi to the water and nearly drowned him and pulled him up, and he went, he said, "When you have that same desire for that breath that you have to chant the names of Krishna, then you will understand what is the most important thing to do." And so this is kind of what reminds me, this idea of surrender, what my spiritual master was talking about, was that there is this just only a desire to be pleasing to your spiritual master, to know about Krishna. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appeared to Devaki, the wife of Vasudeva. Vasudeva is a symbol of transcendental position wherein the appearance of the Supreme Lord takes place. Text 13. Tanna shushrushamanam arhashi anganuvarnitum Yashyavataro Bhatanam Bhutanam Kashemaya Cha Bhavaya Cha Tat, those na unto us, Shusru Shamanananan, those who are endeavoring for, Arhashi, ought to do it, Anga, Osuta Goswami, Anu Varnunitum, to explain by following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. Yasha, whose, Avatara, incarnation, Bhutanam, of the living beings, Keshamaya, for good, Cha, end, Bhavaya, upliftment, Cha, end. Translation: O Sutta Goswami, we are eager to learn about the personality of Godhead and his incarnations. Please explain to us those teachings imparted by previous masters, acharyas. For one is uplifted both by speaking them and by hearing them. So it's very wonderful. It's just like, sometimes you just want to sit with them. It's like the Srimad Bhagavatam, the purports in the verses are, you want to just sit and relish the meanings of that. So here, Acharya, Acharya means the one who has followed in the footsteps of his previous spiritual master, and the spiritual masters in the spiritual lineage. So they're wanting him to do the same thing, because he's an Acharya, and he's also heard and he's walked in the footsteps of the previous Acharyas, and that's what they want to do too. They're very anxious to know it, and they're very anxious to be pleasing and to know these things. For one is uplifted both by speaking them and by hearing them. It's just like, it gives me goosebumps, like, because I really enjoy talking about and reading these things, and I also love hearing it, and I just think it's wonderful to be able to do this. As imperfect as I am, I just am hoping that I can be pleasing to my spiritual master by transmitting this information of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's so wonderful. Purport: Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada says, the condition for hearing the transcendental message of the absolute truth are set forth herein. The first condition is that the audience must be very sincere and eager to hear, and the speaker must be in the line of disciplic succession from the recognized Acharya. So you must have the perfect Acharya, the pure devotee of Krishna, but you also must have a perfect disciple, in the sense that he is completely submissive and wanting to hear from this spiritual master. He is sincere and eager. The transcendental message of the Absolute is not understandable by those who are materially absorbed. Under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master, one becomes gradually purified. Therefore, one must be in the chain of disciplic succession and learn the spiritual art of submissive hearing. So here, Bhaktivedanta is reflecting what is going on here. We have all these perfect disciples who are also qualified spiritual masters as well. They're listening from the pure devotee, submissively listening, enjoying hearing, and Sutta Goswami is also enjoying transmitting, not because it's some ego trip, false ego trip or something like that, but because he is offering his respectful obeisances to Shukadev Goswami, who is his spiritual master, by giving the same thing to everyone. In the case of Sutta Goswami and the sages of Naimisharanya, all these conditions are fulfilled because Srila Sutta Goswami is in the line of Srila Vyasadeva, and the sages of Naimisharanya are all sincere souls who are anxious to learn the truth. Thus, the transcendental topics of Lord Sri Krishna's superhuman activities, his incarnation, his birth, appearance or disappearance, his forms, his names, and so on, are all easily understandable because all requirements are fulfilled. Such discourses help all men on the path of spiritual realization. Text 14. Apana samshritim golam yannama vivashoglinan tata sadyo vimuchyata yad vibhyeti svayam payam. Apana, being entangled, samshritam, in the hurdle of birth and death, goram, too complicated, yat, what, nama, the absolute name, vivashaha, unconsciously, vrinan, chanting, tata, from that, sadya, at once, vimuchyate, gets freedom, yat, that which, vibheti, fears, svayam, personally, payam, fear itself. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even by even unconsciously chanting the holy names of Krishna, which is feared by feared personified. Well, that's pretty. So even wonderful. Even fear personified is feared by the, runs far away by the chanting of Krishna's name. So I love these poetic writings. So being entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death. So sometimes, you know, they have these nets and meshes that are fishermen use to catch fish, and the birds get caught up in it, and they're all like, or you know, like the 7-Up can wrappers they used to do for the cans, and they said cut them up because the birds get caught up, they get caught up in it, you know, like can't get out, their feet are all stuck, their head stuck. So yeah, this is a great analogy. Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead, is the supreme controller of everything. There is no one in creation who is not afraid of the rage of the Almighty. Great asuras like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, and others who were very powerful living entities were all killed by the personality of Godhead. And the Almighty Vasudeva has empowered his name with the powers of his personal self. Everything is related to him, and everything has its identity in him. It is stated herein that the name of Krishna is feared, even by fear personified. This indicates that the name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna. And Krishna can kill the demons. He can protect all of his devotees by killing demons. Therefore, the name of Krishna is as powerful as Lord Krishna himself. There is no difference at all. Anyone, therefore, can take advantage of the holy names of Lord Sri Krishna, even in the midst of greatest dangers. The transcendental name of Krishna, even though uttered unconsciously or by force of circumstances, can help one obtain freedom from the hurdle of birth and death. I love that hurdle. But jump over, you know. I think I've also heard that too. From, you know, Srila Prabhupada says that, you know, when you run jump hurdles in a track, it's like sometimes it seems, some hurdles seem very high, but you know, when you chant Krishna's names and you know, you get going, you can leap over those hurdles, even high hurdles, by the chanting of Krishna's names. A little early, but I have to go, so I'll probably stop there at text 15, and we'll pick up next time. Namaste.